Good morning. Thank you for joining us. This is Kai McMurtry here, and Christina is on my left. Thank you for joining the Oregon Wine Trail New York City webinar overview. We're just going to breeze through the logistics and information you all need to make this as successful and as easy an event for all of us as possible. A few quick housekeeping rules up front. Just so you all know, all attendees are on mute. You have a questions field in the webinar program through which you can submit questions as we go. We'll do our best to answer them in real time, or at the very least, we'll set them aside for a Q&A at the end. We are also recording this webinar, and we'll share that recording with all of you and all of our other participating wineries who were not able to join us today. So let's get started. What you're looking at on your screen, hopefully, is my screen, and hopefully it looks familiar to you. This is just the homepage of the industry.oregonwine website, and we're going to go through the toolkit today for Oregon Wine Trail, and so I want to show the navigation pathway to get you there. Again, this is just the industry site, oregonwine.org. You'll see a marketing tab here in the top navigation. If you hover over it, you'll see a list of options for our consumer programming and trade programming. Here we've got Oregon Wine Trail. So this toolkit is your one-stop shop for all Wine Trail elements. It's where you can find out information about the program, where you can get graphics and downloadable materials. It's where you should search for what you're looking for probably most of the time. So we start at the top of the page here, and I wanted to start the top of the webinar with a quick summary of the context here for what we're doing and why we're doing it. The OWB was awarded a specialty crop block grant through the Oregon Department of Ag and the USDA to augment the industry's current resources and enable us to deliver more thoroughly against two of our strategic imperatives. You can see them numbered there. Increase availability of Oregon wine by engaging trade gatekeepers and drive awareness of Oregon's quality among fine wine consumers. The $174,000 grant will be used to host tasting events in 4 markets around the U.S. where category development data and brand availability confirm a good potential for increased sales. So this market outreach strategy responds directly to feedback we've received through surveys communicating that you, members of the industry, would like the OWB to expand and enhance Oregon's profile outside of the Pacific Northwest. So our first event took place in LA last year, April of 2018. We had about 50 wineries join us, and about 500 plus, almost 600 guests throughout the day, spread across the several event elements. We're here to talk about event number 2, technically in this grant cycle, which will be in New York on May 6th, as you know, and then events 3 and 4 will follow in the first half of 2020. So when, upon receipt of this grant, and when we sat down to talk about what Wine Trail would be, how we would take this show on the road, so to speak, we knew that it would be important to work with a partner who had a strong sense of brand Oregon identity and also had a demonstrated capacity to connect with consumers, particularly consumers who participate in our category. And so we turned to and teamed up with the folks at Feast, that small team here in Portland that puts on a very outsized food festival that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And the concept we arrived at was the Oregon Wine Trail. And the idea was we wanted to take, as much as was possible, we wanted to take a bit of Oregon on the road. So in addition to the obvious, which is of course your glorious fine wine, we wanted to take some personality and some aesthetic and some feeling and some ambiance, and really try to create, for at least an evening, a little slice of Oregon in these various places. So in addition to the great wine program that you supply, we also are bringing along, have brought along, and will bring along culinary partners. For New York, we will be joined by Olympia Provisions and their founder, Eli Cairo, and Jacobson Salt, and their founder, Ben Jacobson, and folks from Stumptown Coffee, and we will have cheese on hand from the Oregon Cheese Guild.
That are not orange cheese cubes.
That are predominantly not orange cheese cubes. We are even expecting hazelnuts from the Hazelnut Commission, crab from the Dungeness Crab Commission. We're really trying to create, as I said, a sort of holistic and saturated experience of what Oregon does well in these various locales, and then supplement that with not only product but personality. So you and your winemakers and principals will be on hand. As I mentioned, Eli and Ben Jacobson will be on hand. And then, of course, there are the aesthetic decor elements, the look and feel of the event that we also are engineering to try to sort of shake people out of their expected locale and maybe bring them a little bit closer to Oregon.
There might be real trees.
Yes. We're investigating trees. So, as you know, it's somewhat of a rare commodity in much of New York, but we know a guy who knows a guy who's got a truck, and if for the right price, he'll bring you some trees.
Your tax dollars hard at work.
So I'm going to let Christina real quickly talk about what elements are available in the event as we move through the toolkit here.
Okay. So we are going to New York City. So you can find the schedule for New York City under second stop, New York, May 6th. We'll continue to build this out as we have more information for you. But the day is going to be jam-packed with a lot going on and a lot of really cool people coming in and out of the building. So the day is going to start off with a masterclass seminar that's being put on being presented by Bree Stock, the Master of Wine, formerly known as Bree Boskoff, Master of Wine that works for our office. She and Chris Tangi, a Master Sommelier, are going to be presenting a master class from noon until 1:30. The registration just went live a couple weeks ago for the master class. We already have, I think, almost 50 people registered. So we're expecting that to be a packed house full of buyers interested in learning about Oregon wine. Concurrently going on during the master class is going to be a VIP distributor reception. That'll be going on from noon until 1 p.m. You've seen messaging about that before. So this reception is for 25 Oregon wineries who do not have distribution in New York and want distribution in New York. The reception is going to be for around 20 key decision makers from distributors around New York to taste through wines from Oregon seeking distribution. The Oregon Wine Board President Tom Danowski is going to talk a little bit about Oregon wine in New York City and some exciting statistics and why they should be wanting to bring on more Oregon wine. It's going to be a really cool event. It's the first time we've done it. So that'll just be happening to the side of the room as you're getting set up. So you'll probably see that going on. No call to action for that unless you've signed up to participate in it. And in that case, I'll be connecting with you in the coming weeks to, put that together. Starting at 1 will be the trade tasting, walk-around tasting. We're expecting 200 to 250 New York City trade for the walk-around. And that'll go until 4:30. We'll have a break, and then the consumer tasting will start at 6:30. So we are currently promoting the event to trade. Right now, we have a couple emails out, so those are starting to trickle in. Exciting to see people get excited about that event. There is no major call to action for you regarding the trade at the moment, except for, please make sure to promote the event to the trade. Kai's going to be talking about a toolkit that we've created to help you promote the event. And also, if you haven't shared your distributor, if you have distribution in New York and you haven't shared their contact information with me through that form that I sent out a couple weeks ago, please shoot me an email with your distributor, the primary contact for your distributor and their email. I'd really like to invite them to this reception and to just connect with them and meet them. So thank you for doing that. It's really important. And so Kai's going to jump back on and talk a little bit more.
Thank you, Christina. So moving on down the toolkit, if you've got some general questions, there's an FAQ here that likely will answer many of them. And if you're looking for a little more historical context on what has happened in the past relating to Wine Trail, there's a few links to past events there. Moving on into the Take Action header. As you know, New York is an enormous, congested, expensive market. Unfortunately, this time around, it was not feasible or reasonable for the OWB to work on arranging a hotel block. So please just make whatever accommodations are most appropriate for you. There's a few suggestions here. I can, as will come as no surprise, the prices that you see there were the prices at original time of posting. You all know how hotels work. I have no doubt that if you go today, you're going to see different pricing. Hopefully it's less, but who knows?
I ended up booking an Airbnb that's close to the Altman. It was pretty affordable, so it's a good option too.
Yeah, the venue, as you can see here, is on West 18th. It's right in Midtown. It's extremely convenient to everything. There's tons of train service. It's obviously New York, so there's cabs and lifts and cars everywhere. So, do what works best for you, and hopefully your visit to New York includes additional market elements and activations that may influence what's most convenient for where you stay. So, getting your wine to New York. You should have all you should have all received an email from me yesterday addressing this very topic. We have two constituencies within this header. The majority of you have New York representation and received an email outlining your steps, and then there's a very small handful that do not have New York representation, and they have obviously a different protocol. If you have a distributor in New York, we are asking you to provide your tasting samples via your distributor. We will have a delivery window in the morning on the event date, May 6th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. to deliver to that address you see in front of you. This was all outlined in that email I sent out yesterday. The Altman, if you're not familiar with it, is a very well-known event venue. This is all they do, probably 350 days a year. They have wine tastings very frequently. I personally have spoken to several distributors in New York who are very familiar with delivering to the venue and do it regularly. I suspect that for most of you, your distributors will be familiar with this process, its location, etc.
What happens if you have a distributor, but you want to pour some wines that your distributor doesn't carry?
Oh, that's a great question, Christina. If you would like to pour something that you cannot source from your in-market distributor, you are welcome to bring that wine yourself or arrange for its availability in the market however you see fit. I should have started this conversation quickly with as brief a summary as possible of the compliance research that I have done on behalf of this event and its execution. It will, again, probably come as no surprise to most of you that New York is an unbelievably heavily regulated state. And figuring out how to do this in a compliant manner has been a challenge. We have spoken with a number of distributors, a number of lawyers, a number of event producers, and probably nearly everyone at New York's State Liquor Authority office.
Kai knows them by name now.
They will be very happy when our event is over, and so will the consumers who get to come and have a great time. And so the easiest way to ensure compliance, and also I think honestly, objectively, a simpler process for you and a more advantageous process for you is to have your distributor provide. However, there are some exceptions. If you don't have a wine in the market and you'd like to pour it, you're welcome to transport it yourself. New York does not require a transportation license if you're moving less than 10 cases, for example, which of course you would be if you were bringing 1 or 2 wines to pour.
And I heard that wines fly free on Alaska Airlines.
Wines fly free on Alaska Airlines, and I don't know if this is still the case, but
Oregon wines.
Christina and I both booked our airfare probably 2 weeks ago, and if you haven't looked, Alaska was having insanely cheap fares. So I recommend it. I think they're kind of in a push in the beginning part of the year while travel is slow to generate some revenue, but they were having incredible deals. So you can fly them free and bring them with you. I will follow up, excuse me, as we get closer to the event to find out from you what your distributor is providing. We will have an OWB staffer dedicated to receiving these deliveries and to ensuring that what you think you're going to get, you actually get on the morning of. So as we get closer to May, I will collect that information from you. If you do not have distribution in New York, we will be consolidating a small shipment here in Oregon. I mentioned that in an email yesterday, and we'll also follow up as we get closer to that delivery window, which is mid-March. For those on the call, again, who don't have distribution, I mentioned this, you may want to investigate Liberty Distribution or LibDib. It will allow you to take orders and make sales at the tasting should a positive trade conversation arise from your interactions in the afternoon. This is obviously a at-will service. If you'd like to get involved, there's no contracts with LibDib. OWB has no investment in whether or not you do this, but it's a pretty smart service, currently only available in a few states, but New York is one of them.
There were a couple of questions that came in. What compliance needs to be completed for the wineries that do not have distribution? Do we need to get the marketing permit?
I like that. This is who asked this?
Casey.
Casey knows how New York works. Yes, Casey, you are going to need to get a marketing permit. That was slightly farther down on my agenda, but we'll jump into it now since you brought it up. In fact, all participating wineries are going to have to get a permit from the SLA that they call a marketing permit. There are 2 options. One is a single-day marketing permit. It costs $25, and the other is a 3-year marketing permit that costs almost $400. It's possible that some of you may already hold a 3-year permit if you do many activations in New York City or New York State. If you don't, then obviously it's not really worth the money. Complete detailed list, a complete set of instructions on the marketing permit, what it means, why you need it, and how to get it is going to come from me to all of you next week. So I don't want to spend too much time on the specifics of it. It is certainly a nuisance, but one that we can all manage and handle, and one that will ensure our event is compliant via the SLA.
But for actually transporting the wines for the wineries that don't have distribution, do they need to sign up with LibDib or anything?
There's no, you don't.
Okay. So they just drop the wines off at the consolidated shipment.
Yep. So
and we're covered.
For those using the consolidated shipment, you'll get another communication from me when that window opens in mid-March. There's a few documents you'll need to just print and attach to your cases for organization period use, and all those will come in a specific email, but there is no New York permitting required for that transportation piece.
Cool. So how many bottles of each wine do you recommend people bringing?
Our recommendation is 6 bottles per wine. We are asking people to honor the 4 wine limit. So we're asking you to bring up to 4 wines, and we're recommending that you bring 6 bottles each. That obviously ultimately is up to you. As Christina mentioned, we're expecting 200 to 250 trade attendees and 300 to 350 consumer attendees. Another sort of convenience about working with your distributor, if that's how your wines are arriving, is we have the ability to modulate those numbers maybe a little bit as we get closer to the event and we know more specifically what our trade registrations look like and our consumer ticket sales look like.
We have done tastings in New York City in the past and never had to have a marketing permit. Is this something new? Where do we get the permit?
I am not at all surprised to hear that. In fact, I would be maybe a little bit surprised to hear that any of you have ever got a marketing permit. It is my understanding after, again, the extensive amount of research and conversations that I have, that virtually no one in New York knows what the law is and how they're supposed to comply with it. And so apparently just no one does. And I have no doubt that 99% of the time it works out with no problem. Though I have talked to folks who have been at tastings that were in that 1% in which it didn't work out.
And they got shut down.
And we will not be those people.
We are rule followers.
So no, the marketing permit is nothing new. You are technically supposed to have it for practically anything that you do in the city, unless it is in fact your distributor who's doing it on your behalf. And the only difference there is they already have the marketing permit. It's not that they don't need it, but they have the 3-year one that I described, and it covers them.
If you were like pouring at a trade tasting or something with a distributor, that would make sense that you wouldn't need it in that case.
Yep.
So Terry Sullivan points out, he's with Upper 5 Vineyards. So Terry works with LibDib, and he points out that if you do want to sign up with LibDib, you should do it quickly because there's a delay to price post in New York City. And that is true. Kai mentioned in his email yesterday.
Yep, that's a great point. That's a great point, Terry. New York, unlike other places, unlike California, which will let you modulate price posting at any time, only accepts price posting or changes once per month, and it takes 35 days to post. So if you want your wines available to actually transact in May when you're in New York, you will need to price post them for consumer for wholesale at the end of March and consumer early April, I believe. It's in the email I sent out yesterday. I don't recall the date specifically, but it's farther in advance than you may think. So if you are interested in being able to take an order on May 6th or immediately thereafter, you should call or email LibDib. I included a contact email in both here on the toolkit with Dave. And also, for those who don't have distribution, it went out in the email that you were sent yesterday. Again, LibDib is no contract, no obligation, and they'd be happy to just talk to you more about their services. Please don't feel intimidated to reach out just to learn a little bit more about what they do.
One more question about the marketing permit. Everything that the link for the marketing permit and more information about filling that out will be sent out soon. So Kai is going to be sending an email with a link to fill out the marketing permit. There's no action at this point.
Correct. I'll send you everything you need for that almost certainly next week. And while it will include this strongly worded suggestion, I'll share it now as well, which is when I send this out, please do it immediately so there are no hiccups and we can avoid them if there are, if the SLA needs any additional follow-up from you or whatnot. But the permit itself won't actually even be issued until within 15 days of the event. But as you know, this is state bureaucracy. It can be somewhat lethargic. So I'll summarize all these things, including links that say, click here, do this, follow these instructions, and make it as easy and as painless for you as possible. Like I said, I'm comfortable being candid that this is somewhat of an annoyance. I wish that I didn't have to ask you to do this, but unfortunately I do, and I'll thank you in advance for suffering through it for all of us. There are, continuing down the toolkit, there are just a couple of you that I won't shame publicly who have not completed this very short questionnaire about your wine trail selections. You'll be hearing from me via email. And obviously you've already registered for the webinar because here you are. So the last big piece that I want to talk to everybody about is the marketing toolkit. So consumer tickets are available and on sale for our event. And while the OWB, of course, is executing a paid campaign to fill the consumer tasting, that includes digital ads, event listings, social media, and some wine retail partnerships, we really also need your support. Your participation will not only help us populate the event, but help us populate it with the right people, assuming that we're talking to fans who have already expressed interest in you, who are on your club lists, etc. So everything you need to do that is here on this toolkit. If you click the image or you click this link, it will open up here in a new tab. It's a hyperlinked PDF that has everything you need to share this with your consumers or with your trade networks. You've got general information about the sessions here, including some important information right here, which is tickets are on sale now, as I mentioned. They're currently $85 for early bird tickets. The general admission price is $95. As a participating winery and a partner, we are inviting you to share this code, member NYC, with your club lists and with those sort of in your inner circle. This is for 15% off or $15 off. So this will get your consumers the lowest price ticket available. It's $80 instead of $85. Please don't just blast this out on all of your social media to anyone, but reserve it for those who you think deserve a reward for their, excuse me, for their support and patronage. And quickly, just to show you how that works, this is our consumer website. If you, under events here, you can see Oregon Wine Trail. That will take us to our two upcoming Wine Trail events. Our internationals team, headed by Marie and Margaret, is executing an event in Toronto in April, but we're going to go to New York in May. Consumers can see all of you, they can see our culinary partners and more. And if they want to buy some tickets, it'll take them to our ticket portal, which is Eventbrite. And I just want you to see here, just so you know, to enter that promotional code, you'll see that that ticket, that member ticket, is not listed here. We've got early bird and general admission. If you click here, member NYC, you'll see that this ticket tier is now available and your guests can select it and make a purchase. It's got the event schedule, so you can plan accordingly, the venue address, and this is the most important page. Here's links to the consumer page that I just showed you. Here's the trade page where your trade networks can find the RSVP link. This link here will take you to a Dropbox folder that's full of images. Some are pre-sized for Instagram, some are pre-sized for Facebook. Others are waiting to be customized. There's our logo in a number of different colors at the end of this link. All the materials you would need to take the branding and identity that we've built and either use it as is or incorporate it into your own materials. You'll find all of our social media accounts here. Please tag us, include us, share us on these things so we can see your efforts. There's some sample copy for different platforms to help make this as easy as possible for you to post to Facebook and Instagram about what's going on. And it includes some newsletter language as well. And then should you have forgotten it, there's contact information by sort of department at the bottom. So please do either bookmark this link or you can just download the PDF directly onto your computer. This marketing toolkit should give you all you need. Some of those materials are essentially duplicated here. So these logo files are the same. These logo files here are the same as you'll find in the toolkit. And then one additional element that may be useful to you that is not specifically linked in the toolkit is this sort of show poster. We designed this sort of like a Woodstock or Coachella sort of large festival poster with all of our participating wineries, time, location, etc.
So we got a question saying, I want to invite my trade buyers through our distributors. What should we do? In that toolkit, there's a link to the trade registration website. Send that link to your distributor and encourage them to send it out to their buyers. You could also you could share that poster graphic with them if they wanted to send out an email. But yeah, that website is where everyone in the trade can register.
And this is Christina's trade page. It includes some additional information that the consumer page does not have, obviously, about the education elements, and includes several large RSVP trade buttons. Cool. And then we've got, again, this is a little bit of a repeat. If this is easier for some, there are social media suggested copy and images here for download. If you click on them, they'll take you to a larger version that you can then save to your desktop. So that takes us through the toolkit. If you have any additional questions, we'd be happy to do our best to answer them now. Of course, my email is always open, kai@oregonwine.org. We touched on a few action items that will follow, specifically around delivering wine to New York and the marketing permit. So please keep an eye out for those communications from me in the coming weeks. Any questions?
Going to New York. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We recorded this. So, Andrea has a question. What besides wine do we need to bring?
You're welcome to bring any literature or other takeaways that you would like either the trade or consumers to have. There's no restriction really on what is available to be placed on your table. All wineries will have the same presentation space. You'll have 4 feet of table. We will, of course, provide all the linens and coverings, and we will provide a tabletop sign for everyone that includes your name, your Instagram handle, your region, and your selections from that trail icons form.
What if people want to bring personalized tablecloths with their logo?
We would ask you to leave them at home this time. I was just going to say, another thing that we will ask you to leave at home is any sort of stand-up, pull-up banner. I'm not sure the right word for those, but I think you probably know what I'm talking about. And the reason being is we are making a concerted effort to, as I mentioned at the beginning, really build a holistic presentation of both personality and style in the room. And it will be undermined if we have 20 or 30 or 40 wildly different brand presentations.
Thanks, Tom, for the reminder. So we are printing postcards to promote this event that can be distributed through retailers, or your distributors can share them with members of the trade. Tom Sitcha at Britain is actually going to be going to a trade tasting in New York next week, and so he's going to take a stack of those postcards to promote the event to the trade at the trade tasting that they're pouring at, which is brilliant. So thank you, Tom. So if you guys have any trade tastings coming up in New York and you want those postcards, let me know. I'm happy to get them for you. We'll have them in the office next week. Otherwise, we're going to be sharing them with each distributor.
Yep.
We're going to be sharing packs of them with each distributor in New York so that they can share them with their accounts. So another reason to share your distributor contact information with me so that we can be in touch with them about that. So printed postcards will be available if you have a need for them.
And just a last point sort of on wayfinding, re that question about signage. The floor plan of the event will be printed in the program and will be alphabetical. And our experience in LA was that it was pretty easy to make that very user-friendly for our guests. The combination of alphabetical plus the floor plan printed in the program really does allow people to find the wineries that they're looking for very easily.
Are we reaching out to any close neighboring states? I'm going to be reaching out to some distributors in New Jersey. And we are working with some retailers to promote the event in New Jersey as well. But the majority of our promotion will be within New York State. But you're welcome. If you have wine club members, you're welcome to invite anybody that you think might come.
Okay, so it looks like the questions are sort of drying up. There's a few specific ones here that are not really relevant to the group that we will answer. So if you're one of those folks, just hang on here at the end. Christine is typing as I speak. Otherwise, a sincere thanks for all of you joining us and participating. I know that I'm really excited about this event.
Me too. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I am always up for a trip to New York, especially when it includes so much Oregon. So thank you for joining us both this morning and on May 6th, and we'll be in touch soon. Cheers.